Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 24th of August, now it's 15 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Lyman and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me emphasize, if I may, that this project exists solely thanks to help from members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which I do upload some extra content on regular basis. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's talk about news now, and of course I'm gonna start with this tragic news about crash of private jet yesterday afternoon, on board of which, according to Rosaviatsia, Russian regulator, was head of PMC Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and his deputies. Among with the fighters of PMC, also 3 members of crew. And according to official statement from Rosaviatsia, all passengers on the board and all crew members died during this crash, during this accident. This is an official statement. Yesterday afternoon, for several hours, there was no official information if Prigozhin was on the board, even though according to paperwork, Prigozhin supposed to be on that flight, which was from Moscow to St. Petersburg. And later on, late evening yesterday, Russian regulator Rosaviatsia did confirm that Prigozhin was on the board of that plane. This information did cause a shockwave, I will say, in Russia. Many people were not exactly surprised, because Prigozhin did had powerful enemies, but still significant part of society was shocked to hear that his plane was crashed. And I did read many comments on many different platforms, and even though investigation have not concluded anything yet, and it will be right to wait for investigation, what they will find out. My understanding is that majority of society here in Russia are not really believing that this crash occurred because of some piloting error or some technical malfunctioning on the board of this plane. As I mentioned, Prigozhin had many powerful enemies in the West, and rumors are circulating that behind this incident may be US Secret Service, CIA, or maybe British Secret Service, MI6. Some speculations are about involvement of Ukraine's military intelligence and the leadership of Budanov, who did threaten to kill Russians all around the world openly during his interview. And there are also some rumors that death of Prigozhin may had something to do with his difficult, let's say, mildly difficult relationships with leadership of Russian Defense Ministry. But yet again, this is all the rumors. Let's wait what investigation will conclude. what results investigation will share with the public. I did see some reports today that PMC Wagner members did make statement that they will continue their work. They still have commanders, but question is rising: will PMC be able to survive without its leaders? Prigozhin was official leader of PMC and media person, but together with him on the board of that plane was Dmitry Utkin, and that person was military brains of PMC. He was involved, according to reports, he was involved on almost all the military operations, on planning of all the military operations of PMC Wagner, and losing these commanders, of course, will be significant setback for PMC. There are some rumors that units of Wagner may join Russian army or may be dismissed, but it's too early yet to come up with any conclusions. All we can say right now is that according to Russian regulator, Rosaviation, Prigozhin, Dmitry Utkin, and several other members of PMC Wagner were on the board and died during this crash. Let's continue with some other news, by the way, and just a few minutes ago, RIA Novosti did report that previous night Russian air defense systems did shut down Ukrainian drones over the Bryansk and Kaluga regions of Russian Federation. Two Ukrainian drones were shut down in the Bryansk region and one in the Kaluga region. As we can see, Zelensky and his associates are continuing to their attempts to strike deep inside Russian territory. And before I continue, let me share with you a short summary of the situation on the front line. So let's begin with from southern sectors and then up to northern ones. Kherson region, no significant changes on the ground. Artillery duels between the sides, local scale skirmishes and recon operations. Yesterday, Russian Defense Ministry did share with public video footage of destruction of Ukraine's S-300 air defense systems by Russian Su-34 frontline bombers, well, that was a quite significant blow to Ukrainian forces, especially in Kherson region, because some time ago, another S-300 air defense system was destroyed in Kherson region also, and a little bit earlier we had reports that IRIS-T air defense systems was also destroyed in Kherson region. And if that's the case, then this significant concentration of air defense systems in Kherson region does seems to me as a good indicator that after all, my reading of big picture may be correct when I was saying that Zelensky and his associates are planning mass crossing of the Dnieper River, and maybe those air defense systems were brought in Kherson region to cover entire this area and to give air cover to these amphibious forces that will try to cross Dnieper River, or maybe even enter Kherson region from Black Sea. But as we can see, Russian side was quite successful to neutralize at least some of those air defense systems, and this is a major update when it comes to Kherson region. Otherwise, it's local scale skirmishes and artillery duels between the sides. Nothing is happening right now in Kherson region that will influence overall situation on this sector. Next, Zaporizhzhia and South Donetsk sectors of the front on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. And when it comes to Zaporizhzhia region, probably all of you are at this point familiar with information from Ukrainian side that they did establish control over the Rabotino. They did put a flag on one of the buildings there and made some videos. Some media action was conducted. But in reality, Rabotino is still disputed between the sides, and Ukrainian forces are controlling northern parts of this settlement, central part under partial control of Ukrainian forces, we may say, but on the southern side, Russian forces are still remaining on their positions. I would not be surprised, by the way, if Russian forces will withdraw from Rabotino, which is which will just once again highlight this Russian approach of mobile defense tactics that is adopted during the special military operation. But for this moment, Rabotino is not under full control of Ukrainian forces. That's what I want to emphasize. And well, even though Ukrainian forces did manage to achieve some success in Rabotino direction, you tell me if it was worth it, if you take into account how many soldiers they lost and how many military equipment during this miserable, really so-called counteroffensive. And by the way, I remind you that Rabotino are not even on the first line of defense of Russian armed forces. So yes, Ukrainian side will try to portray establishment of partial control over Rabotino as some kind of victory. Today they are celebrating Independence Day. It's interesting what independence they are celebrating when current modern Ukraine, this failed state, is run by Washington and London. They are independent from whom? Question is rising, isn't it? But anyway, they will of course portray this development in Zaporizhzhia region as some kind of victory, when in reality it's just nothing really. That's it. And when it comes to, it's a failure, not just nothing, but it's a devastating failure of Ukrainian forces. That's what I will say, because even Western media outlets, by the way, now are recognizing that during these assault operations on Rabotino, Ukrainian forces began to use the strategic reserves and most capable brigades, and even those most capable brigades, among which is 82nd Brigade, that is armed with Challenger 2 tanks, German-made British Challenger 2 tanks, German-made Marder armored personnel carriers, and the US-made Striker armored personnel carriers. Even that brigade has significant losses, and even Western media is forced to acknowledge that. So if that's a success, then I don't know really what that word means anymore. And when it comes to South Donetsk sector of the front line, we don't really have any significant changes on the line of contact. Main hotspot is still so-called Vremovsky salient or Vremovsky ledge. And Ukrainian forces, during the previous couple of days, Ukrainian forces were trying to bypass Zavetnaya Zhelanya settlement here and strike in direction of Stara Malinovka. But we did not receive any reports that Ukrainian forces were able to achieve any success whatsoever in this local scale offensive operation. So I will call overall situation on Zaporizhzhia and South Donetsk sectors of the front as a deadlock. or operational pause, even though Ukrainian side is using its last strategic reserves that they have to achieve some breakthrough, which they don't have and will not have. Let's continue. Donetsk direction. Of course, main hotspots on the southern flank of Donetsk direction is Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdiivka. Well, in these sectors, it's Russian forces that are conducting local-scale offensive operations to improve their positions, to cut supply lines of Ukrainian armed forces that are used not just Ukrainian garrisons in Donetsk direction, but also Ukrainian garrisons in Ugledar, or Ukrainian armed groups in Ugledar and direction and Vremovsky salient area. And well, I guess these attempts from Russian side to distract logistical lines of Ukrainian forces in this area will continue. When it comes to Bakhmut direction, yet again, we don't have any reports about more or less significant activity on the front, even though in previous week we had reports that Kiev did send additional troops in direction of Bakhmut or Artyomovsk to continue local-scale offensive operations on the southern flank of Bakhmut. I don't know what happened. Maybe those forces did not arrive on this sector of the front, or maybe plans have changed. But we did not see yet another wave of Ukrainian local-scale offensives in this area, and the Russian side has full control over the situation on the southern flank. And after more than 2 months of this constant local-scale offensives from Ukrainian side, I guess we can say now for sure that Russian side managed to finally stabilize situation on Bakhmut sectors of the front, southern flank of Bakhmut and northern flank of Bakhmut. When it comes to Seversk, Lyman and Kupiansk direction, well, we did have reports that Ukrainian forces were trying to conduct some local-scale offensive operations in Lyman direction, but we did not have any reports that they did manage to achieve any success, and I'm doubting that they will be able to achieve any success, because initiative on the northern sectors are totally in Russian hands. And for me personally, only question remains when Russian Defense Ministry will greenlight large-scale Russian counteroffensive. I did not expect that Ukrainian forces will be able to conduct any more or less successful operation on the northern sectors of the front. They just have no chance to achieve anything there, not even slight chance. And this is a short summary of the situation on the front line. I remind you, by the way, that there are other channels that are devoting much more time to detailed analysis of situation on the front line, like military summary, like DPA war, Defense Politics Asia, and a channel of Alexander Mercuris, host of Duran. And I highly recommend, if you are interested in detailed information, I highly recommend those channels. You can see links under every my video in a recommendation list in description box. Now let's talk about some other news. And TASS news agency is reporting that this is exactly the confirmation of information that I shared with you a couple of minutes ago. So TASS is writing that Forbes, Western media outlet, Western propaganda tool, I will say, is forced to acknowledge in its article that Ukraine's 82nd Brigade lost at least 10% of all its military equipment during offensive operations in Zaporizhzhia sector of the front line. And by the way, I remind you that 82nd Brigade was deployed on a line of contact just a couple of days ago. So in a couple of days, they lost more than 10% or around at least 10%. But if Western media is writing 10%, you can say, I don't know, man, 20, 30, maybe even more. Because, of course, Western propaganda outlets will downgrade losses of Ukrainian armed forces. But anyway, fact itself that Western media outlet, big name in Western propaganda, is forced to acknowledge that Ukrainian forces are using their last reserves, strategic reserves, in this so-called counteroffensive, and not yet are able to achieve any significant success. And I remind you that 82nd Brigade is armed with British Challenger 2 tanks. We did not see yet any video or photo confirmation that Challenger 2s even were deployed on the zero line or line of contact. But we did see video footages, and I did show on my Telegram also destroyed videos about destroyed Striker, US-made Striker armored personnel carriers, and German-made Marder armored personnel carriers. So, and quite a lot of them, really. So that's why I said 10% is a very conservative estimate from Forbes, but what you can expect from Western propaganda outlet, man. Of course, they will downgrade losses on the side of Zelensky and his criminal associates. RIA Novosti is also reporting that I did report about it, that drones were shut down in Kaluga and Bryansk regions, and the TASS news agency is reporting, by the way, that according to Vladimir Rogov, head of NGO We Are With Russia, and as you know, Vladimir Rogov constantly makes updates on situation, especially in Zaporizhzhia sector of the front line, and according to him, Ukrainian forces conducted some media operation in Robotyne, and in reality they are not in control of this settlement. Well, it's not just Rogov that reporting about it, but many other channels, including Ribor, by the way, biggest Russian military channel on Telegram, are reports that fight for Robotyne is continuing, and Russian forces are still in control of southern part of this village, even though this tactic of Russian mobile warfare does allow Russian forces to withdraw from any one point if it's necessary, because you can always regain control over the territories, but you cannot bring back lives of the killed soldiers. So I would not be surprised at all if Russian forces will decide to move back from Robotyne, strengthen next strongholds, and continue from there. But when it comes to strategic situation on Zaporizhzhia sector of the front line, even though Robotyne is a significant settlement, I'm not gonna say that Robotyne is irrelevant settlement. No, it's significant settlement, and Ukrainian forces will probably continue their push towards Tokmak here. But to do so, they have to reach and then breach first line of defense of Russian forces, which is right next to Robotyne. This settlement, Novopokrovka, is on the first line of defense, and I don't think Ukrainian forces will be able to breach that defense line. Anyway, let's see. Time will tell. And RT is reporting that according to Ukraine's ex-president shall aid, Ukraine must seek ceasefire with Russia now before it's not too late. So let me read you a few sentences from this article. Ukraine should hasten to end hostilities with Russia before the flow of American military and financial aid to the country dries up. Former aide to Ukrainian presidents has said in a video on his YouTube channel Oleg Soskin, who served as an economic advisor to Leonid Kravchuk and Leonid Kuchma in the 90s, described the US as the key country in the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, arguing that if it cuts off its military assistance to Kiev, then later will sign some kind of agreement with Moscow within days. Well, we can argue with Soskin about his reading of big picture or not, but my take is that in general, Soskin is right. Ukraine must seek ceasefire with Russia right now, because before it's not too late. Because if this conflict will continue any longer, I believe this conflict will end by ending Ukraine's statehood. And most of the Ukraine, in modern Ukraine, will become under control of Russia, and western parts of Ukraine will be come under control of western neighbors of this failed state, namely Poland, Romania, Hungary, and possibly Slovakia, even though Hungary and Slovakia have some issues about, as I understand, about territories of modern Ukraine that belongs to whom belongs those territories. So Hungary and Slovakia may find it difficult to deal with that situation. They have their eyes on the almost same territories at some parts of western Ukraine. But anyway, I will agree with this statement here from former aide of Ukrainian presidents that time is running out for Ukraine as a state, and if they would not seek ceasefire, then Ukraine as a state will end. That's it, really. RIA Novosti is continuing that RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Western media, among them New York Times, US officials are demanding from Kiev to continue a counteroffensive and concentrate on Melitopol city. I did predicted this, isn't it? I was saying all along that Washington and London will not allow Zelensky to keep its last strategic reserves. And I guess my reading of picture was more or less correct, because even New York Times is now writing that Washington is demanding from Ukraine to continue counteroffensive and try to establish control over the Melitopol, which is, by the way, here, this city. But to reach Melitopol, Ukrainian forces have to breach first, second, and third lines of defense of Russian armed forces, which is just impossible. Ukrainian forces have no even slightest chance to do so. But as we all know, Washington runs modern Ukraine, and if they want, and if they're demanding this counteroffensive to be continued, then that's what will happen. And I did express my understanding about these demands from Washington in previous videos. I will repeat myself that as I understand right now, at this stage on this conflict, Western elites or true rulers of the West in Washington and London are concentrating on neutralization of Ukrainian armed forces. So they are pushing Kiev to continue this counteroffensive so that Russian side will take care of a vast majority of Ukrainian brigades. And as a result of that, when Poland and some other NATO member states from anti-Russian coalition that was built by Poland with active participation of Washington and London, when these countries will send their troops to Western Ukraine to establish control over that regions, they will receive minimal resistance from Ukrainian armed forces, because they will be decimated by that time by Russian forces. It's easy to read, by the way. I mean, at least that's how I read big picture. And this is and this take on the situation gives you opportunity to easily read what is behind of one or another move of Washington and London. And in this particular case, even though I'm quite sure nobody in Pentagon has any doubts that Ukrainian forces will never reach Melitopol, they are demanding this counteroffensive to be continued for only one reason: to make sure that Russian side will take care of majority of Ukrainian forces, and Poland, Romania, Slovakia, maybe some Baltic states will receive a minimal resistance when they will send their forces in the western Ukraine under whatever pretext, to protect Ukraine or to protect Ukraine's western regions, or whatever pretext is gonna be. In reality, Poland and Romania will establish control over the western regions, mainly Poland, because it will take vast majority of western Ukraine, including Lvov city, by the way. I did spoke about this topic many times before, but for new members of our community, I did repeat some part of it. Let me continue now. And well, Russian Foreign Ministry official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, as I understand, did made statements yesterday, according to TASS news agency, that Russian armed forces and Moscow will not leave without answer latest strikes of Zelensky and his associates in direction of Moscow with the drones. As you know, during the previous 5 or 6 days, Ukrainian forces were trying to strike Moscow almost on daily basis. We did not have any reports about strikes on Moscow today, which is good. But in previous days, there were constant attempts to reach Moscow. And well, Zakharova did said that Moscow would not leave this terrorist activity without answer. And well, we did hear these kind of statements many times before. And I guess Russian side will try to deal with this issue one way or another, but I have some doubts that Moscow will strike on main decision-making centers in Kiev and Lvov, where decisions are made to strike on Moscow. But, and by the way, Maria Zakharova also mentioned that this type of terrorist activity are conducted with active support from Ukrainian side, is conducted with active support of NATO member states, especially with intelligence and technologies. And according to Zakharova, Zelensky and his associates are using intelligence from NATO member states to line out directions for those drones to avoid air defense systems, as I understand. But anyway, let's continue. And TASS news agency also reporting that official representative of Ukraine's main directorate of military intelligence, GUR, Andrei Yusov, did made a statement that these strikes on Moscow city, failed attempts to strike Moscow city, even though some damage was done, by the way. We all see these videos and pictures. I did share on my Telegram channel many times. So according to this person, official representative of Ukraine's military intelligence, these actions have a main goal for these strikes is to psychologically influence Russian society. And well, I don't know about psychology, but what I can say is that Russian society is very angry. Russian society is very angry, and it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time when people here in Russia will demand from Moscow some decisive actions. And I don't think Zelensky and his associates gonna like what is coming to them, or what will come to them if Kremlin will listen to Russian society. But anyway, let's continue. If anyone thinks in the West or in the Ukraine that they're gonna scare people here with these drone strikes, they are very mistaken, because, by the way, right now I live in Moscow region, and to be honest, I only think about these drones when I'm recording videos and when I'm reading news. So they're not gonna scare us, man. It's impossible. But they're gonna make us hungry, that's for sure. And if it was up to me, I will take out decision-making centers, in major decision-making centers in Ukraine for in very first day. In very first day. So, you know, and I guess many citizens of Russian Federation will, with continuation of this type of actions from Ukrainian side, many citizens of Russia will have a similar take fairly soon. Or maybe majority already thinks that main decision-making centers in Ukraine should be destroyed, and all the leaders of this terrorist and Nazi regime, because it's logical. But anyway, let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that this drug addict and Nazi puppet of Western so-called elites, Zelensky, now demanding from Finland F-18 fighter jets. I mean, he's asking Finland for F-18 fighter jets, like he basically demanded cruise missiles just a day ago from US, together with F-16s. So, well, I don't know what is going on in head of this animal, but I have some doubts that Finland, even though they have an extremely Russophobic government, I don't think Finland will go to such extent in escalation with Russia to deliver some F-18s to Zelensky and his Nazi associates and terrorist associates. It's impossible in my understanding. But let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that well, that's quite interesting. Politico did come up with an article that US officials are now trying to distance themselves from failures of Ukrainian army on the front line and failures of Zelensky's Nazi and terrorist regime by approving articles in major propaganda outlets of the West about failures on the front, about failures of Ukrainian forces on the front. And according to Politico, US officials are trying to shift attention towards current leadership of Ukraine and blame them for everything. And well, is anybody surprised to hear about it? That was exactly what I was saying for many months now, because these articles, these somewhat critical articles in Western media outlets did appear not yesterday or day before. Ground have been prepared, big preparation of ground for such a distancing has begun a couple of months ago, and I was reporting about it and I was talking about it. So veterans of our community probably remember that. So yes, I will agree with Politico in this case. It's just too obvious that not just US officials, by the way, but Western elites in general, including in Europe, are trying now to shift attention towards Zelensky, his associates, including military leadership of Ukraine, to somehow avoid to somehow minimize pressure on themselves, because despite hundreds of billions of dollars that was spent on this terrorist regime in Ukraine, and despite this impressive propaganda that Ukrainian army gonna achieve some unbelievable success during this counteroffensive, in reality they did achieve just one thing: they did destroy themselves. They did conducted suicidal counteroffensive and well, end up being destroyed mainly. And if one or two brigades still remain operational, then it's only a matter of time when the Russian side will take care of those brigades also. That's it. Anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that former president of France, Macron, yet another clown, did make statement that for France it's unacceptable Ukraine to lose. Well, someone should ask Macron, who cares about what is acceptable and what is not for France, really? I mean, who cares? Nobody. And when he talks about France, of course, and when I say France, I mean so-called elites of the France, because I'm quite sure citizens of France, majority of citizens of France want nothing to do with war with Russia that is waged by Western elites. But when it comes to so-called elites of the France, I mean, yes, they may want to see Russia defeated. They may have some phantom pains, historically speaking, because after all, Napoleon and his unbeatable army was humiliated in Russia. And, well, I mean, French elites may dream about anything they want, but once this conflict will end, there will be no more Ukraine as a state, I can say that. Anyway, let's continue. And Putin did agree on program. Putin did greenlighted basically a program for rebuilding of Zaporizhzhia region, and this program is for 10 years. And billions and billions will be transferred for this in Zaporizhzhia region. But I guess main part of this program about rebuilding of Zaporizhzhia will of course become in full force once entire region will be liberated from Western puppet regime in Kiev, which is only a matter of time, by the way, of course. And this is immensely interesting and significant news. RIA Novosti is reporting, and many other media outlets, of course, report also that India is the first country who did manage to successfully land a lunar probe on the southern pole of moon, which is great news. This happened yesterday afternoon, and I did see a video when Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov did congratulate his Indian colleague during negotiations on the South Africa during BRICS summit. And well, great success for Indian space program. And well, what else can I say, man? It's great to see that India is becoming a powerhouse, not just when it comes to economy, not just when it comes to military capabilities, but also in the space, because after all, India has unbelievable history of producing brightest minds in this world. So there is no reason why India should not be one of the leading countries in the space explorations. So my congratulations to India. And RT is reporting. How long is this video? 45 minutes. Then I will end this update here, if I may. And if any significant development, of course, I will record second update like I did yesterday. By the way, I hope you will find this update interesting, and if so, please consider to click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this channel deserves to be supported, you can do it with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.